Let's get into it. Coach Colin news. We have a veteran, perhaps even the first case of TDS. Patient zero. I'm talking. You guys know who is it? Who's patient zero? Oh, everybody knows who patient zero is. It's Rosie O'Donnell, and she's back. She's still not stopping. She has a lot to say about Trump. In this clip that I'm going to show you, Chris is asking, apparently Rosie said all of this that's happening to Trump was inevitable. And I kind of agree with everything that he did as president, how he became president, and the fact that he's running again kind of made this inevitable. Of course, they were going to try and do all of this with these cases that are just frivolous that nobody wanted. And then all of a sudden he starts running. And the next thing you know, all these cases pop up. Trump said it himself. They could have brought these things up years ago. Right? But they didn't want to. Reason that they brought it up right now, obviously, and Trump keeps talking about it as he keeps coming out of the courthouse every day, it's so he can't campaign. He can't see family events, he can't do everything that he needs to do. Rosie said all of this was inevitable, right? And now she's going to tell you a little bit about why. Then I have her talking about J6. Oh, they can't let go of J6. They cannot let go of J6. Ask any of these people, one person that got arrested on J6. I'm not saying there were none. I'm just saying ask them. And will they even know a name? Will they even know an event? Do they even know anything that happened? Ask them about the agents. I'm just saying, but I'm not saying. But we'll get into it. Anyways, let's get into this first clip. Patient zero, back at it again. I keep remembering the joke I made where Tony Hinchcliffe made it, and I pointed it out. She looks like Keith Olbermann. And that's not an insult. It's not an insult. Let me tell you, hey, that's YouTube. I'm not insulting anybody. Keith is a handsome man, established man, prestigious looking gentleman. That's all I'm saying. They just look alike. Brother and sister, I'm not saying anything else. They just look similar. That's all. Let's get into it.
You see it as a day that was inevitable. Why?
Well, he is a cruel, criminal, and mentally unstable man. And Duty to Warn was a book that came out when he was first in office. Psychiatrists across the country who don't ever really diagnose people that they don't serve personally came together and made a book, Duty to Warn, to tell the world what a narcissistic, mentally ill person he is. And I think he's the worst thing that ever happened to the United States, and his cruelty knows no bounds. And when he is upset and humiliated and embarrassed, he has no control, and he goes ape shit. Can I say that?
Yeah, you just did. So, Rosie, let me ask you, what was more surprising to you? That even though you made jokes about him, that a man would go after you the way he did and call you the things he did, or that Barbara seemed to want to keep some distance from it and want you to be careful about the situation?
It's very interesting. I expect nothing but the lowest bar for Donald Trump. And, every single day he just grants my perception of him as correct by his actions, by his words, by his horrible Truth Social that is failing. And, he is the kind of person that is a grifter. And he is an evangelical preacher to people who believed that Celebrity Apprentice was true. And Celebrity Apprentice was not true. And Mark Burnett has tapes of him calling people every racist word in the world, telling women to get down on their knees. Mark Burnett owns the cache of all of Trump's sickness, and he refuses to release it. And I think that's a sin, because what's happening now is democracy is on trial.
Hey, thank you for watching.
Democracy's on trial. That is the one thing that they love to say, that democracy's on trial. And what are you saying when you say that? Are you saying Trump is democracy? Is that what she means? Democracy is on trial, and we have to make sure that democracy gets locked up and we throw away the key. Democracy cannot prevail in this instance. Maybe that's what she actually means. Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense when they say democracy's on trial. Trump is democracy. How about that? We all knew that already, but I'm glad that Rosie made it clear for us. Patient zero. That's what I'm going to call her from now on. Patient zero. You hear me say patient zero, you know who I'm about to bring up. She's calling him sick and cruel, of course. And then she's talking about this book, Duty to Warn. And you know what? This is a very slick game that they play. Because all these doctors, wife, hair in my mouth, all these doctors that came forward, and they're like, oh, we have to tell you guys, we have to diagnose this person. You know, it's unprofessional for us to diagnose anybody without actually knowing them. But through these sound bites and video clips that we've seen, we want to diagnose this person for everybody. And we're going to tell the entire world. You're just bragging about a bunch of doctors who did the most unprofessional thing that they could possibly do. Not only are they diagnosing, they're breaking their oath of not telling people. They're doing everything they can. But again, it's a slick game because she gets to point to that. But that is just more of the same. That book and those doctors coming forward is the same type of tactic that what's happening with the cases right now. The cases are just there in order to make him seem like a criminal. You know, the regular person, the headline reader is just going to look and say, oh, he's in court again. Whoa, he's in court again? Whoa, how many cases? Wow, this guy must be a criminal. He must be like John Gotti or something. What is he, a mafia member or something? That's how that mind works. There are people like that, sadly. This book that she's talking about is the same thing. They're like, well, let's just all come forward. We all don't like Trump, and we can leave that out of the equation. We all hate this man so much. Let's leave that out of the equation and just diagnose him unfairly, and let's just put it out for the world to see. That's all they did. It's a very slick game because then you can point back to, like, if you're somebody who's a Trump hater, you can just point to that book and say, you remember those doctors? Yeah, I remember. Listen, in the past 5 years, I remember a whole lot of doctors. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I remember a whole lot of doctors. Yeah. Tired of people. Hey, man, what about the experts? Man, what about them? I'm not saying I don't believe any experts anymore, but it's getting tough. That's all I'm saying. It's getting tough. Well, you know, the experts say, oh, did they? Let me see their bank accounts. Who do they work for? Can you tell me any of that? Oh, no? You just read an article that said the experts? Fine. Good for you. Go do whatever it is you're going to do with that information. I can't do that anymore. I'm sorry. I don't know about you. I can't do that anymore. People tell me, watching Joe Rogan, like, even archaeologists are like suppressing history if they can. Everybody. It's every field. Every field has some financial incentive. They don't want their funding to dry up. They're just doing things just to do them. The way that they run their... I'm not even going to get into it. I don't want to get too deep. I got another clip for you guys. She's sitting with Bill O'Reilly. Chris Cuomo is trying this whole thing where he's like, I'm the guy who gets the people and we talk the truth. I'm the guy. You know, nobody else. There's nobody else on YouTube or anything who's bringing together random people and getting opinions and looking for the truth and questioning things. Nobody else. Big billboard of Joe Rogan behind him. Nobody else. It's just me. Ever since I got fired, it's been my dream. And nobody else is doing it. Just me. All these people on Twitter. Just me. Walks right by Tucker Carlson. Just me doing this type of thing now. Absolutely ridiculous. But let's listen to Rosie O'Donnell say a bunch of... Let me just say something real quick before I click this thing. Gentlemen, this is why you don't make fun of women's weight. You don't do it. Okay? Donald Trump's a bold man to do it. But this is what happens. They remember forever. Forever. Because that's all this stems from. It's what he called her. That's it. Of course she thinks he's the worst thing to happen to the United States of America. She's like, he called me fat. What? He's the worst. All right, let's get into it.
That's the dangerous thing that's happening when I say, Chris, democracy is on trial. It's because without this, we're nothing as a nation. We have to get everyone back together again in some way.
Okay, but Rosie, with all due respect, you're not going to be successful saying that democracy is on trial and anybody who supports Donald Trump is a fascist. You're not. I mean, those people are going to reject you 100%.
I might,
because there's a lot more to it than you are presenting. There is a lot more to it.
Well,
Donald Trump presided over the country for 4 years. Wait a minute, just hear me out. Donald Trump presided over the country for 4 years, and there was no attack on democracy until January 6th. And that was a large mistake that he made. I don't believe that he was behind it. I think that if that trial ever gets up, he'll be acquitted. There's too much exculpatory evidence.
No way.
But you're not going to bring anybody together demonizing Trump and the people and the 72 million who voted for him. That's not going to happen.
All right, so look, let's hear Rosie out, though, because Rosie is, as is Bill, maybe even better, great communicator, great ability to deliver message, great feel for people. What are you trying to do, Rosie, and what's your hope?
You know, my hope is that we get to continue as a democracy in this country, that we get to have elected officials representing the people as our forefathers created. And what Donald Trump is doing is trying to become an authoritarian, a dictator, and he is the worst thing that ever happened to this nation. And there are so many examples that it's ridiculous to try to name them all. And so I forgive the people who were lied to by Mark Burnett about Donald Trump. I forgive them when they are going to see the truth about him and he's going to go to jail. Because that's where he deserves to be, and that's where any other American would be if they did what he did. And I totally disagree with you saying that he didn't have anything to do with the insurrection, that he didn't instigate it, plan it, demand it of his fans, because he did, Bill. He did.
Well, we'll see in court what is presented, and if you are correct, then we'll have another debate. But I will take a $10,000 bet right now with you, Rosie, to your favorite charity or mine, that Donald Trump will not be convicted of insurrection because he's not charged with it.
Man, that is so cheap, Bill.
10K,
that is so cheap. You cheapo.
I'm here to do it.
You cheapo. He wasn't charged with it.
Hey,
Make a $10,000 bet that he won't be
Bill,
found guilty of anything in the case.
I'll make that bet. 10,000
No, he wasn't charged with
found
insurrection.
Guilty.
All right, you got it.
Not of that. Not of that.
He wasn't
Those
charged
other
with it.
charges.
Sneaky
Anything
Bill.
he is charged with, I agree he will be guilty.
You take that bet?
We'll see. I'm not really fearful of our democracy because there isn't anybody more outspoken in this country than I am about politics and other things. And my freedom was not impeded one iota during the Trump administration. And I don't know any broadcaster's freedom who was. You still have The View on every day, pounding Trump into pudding. Nothing happens. All the working people I know were better off under Donald Trump, so there wasn't any economic consequence. So I really don't know what the hyperbole is.
That's bull.
And that's why I reject it.
That's bull. How many Americans did he kill by his COVID inaction? Let's start.
Rosie's amazing. He brings up one thing and she's like, that's bull. Let me bring up a whole other point. Inaction. What do you mean? Oh man, I love it. I love seeing Rosie get like this. Bill O'Reilly, very odd mix by Chris Cuomo here, getting Rosie O'Donnell and Bill O'Reilly. They don't really have any beef. They're not going to bet $10,000, but Rosie's willing to do it. He's not even charged with it. She's like, any charge, he'll be guilty. He'll be guilty. Hey, Rosie, what are the charges? I don't know. I don't care. I think it's because he called me. Is that not he didn't get charged for that? He should get prison for what he called me. It's exactly what she's thinking. I'm telling you guys, I don't care what the lady looks like. Don't make fun of her weight. She will remember you forever. You know, like when you mess with crows, if you mess with crows, they'll let the other crows know, and they'll come after you if they see you. They'll remember your face forever. Their kids will remember your face. That's what's going on with Rosie. She will look at her. Look at her. Look at her face. This will never stop. Ever. Ever. She'll be yelling at Barron's kids. His kids will be 8'9", and she'll be like, "Yeah, well, the thing about you guys, you're not so tall. You're not so tall. And you're born from an insurrection. You know that? All you guys are born from insurrections." It's gonna be AI. She's gonna be like, "Upload me to AI. You guys say I'll never die. Just program me to yell at people who have the last name Trump, or the genome, whatever his genes are. Whatever his DNA is. I want to yell at those people forever. Upload me now." But it's amazing that she gets into. First off, see, I never understood this. So many people in the comments, whenever somebody would say, so we can get back to being a democracy, there would always be someone in the comments of any video I did where someone said that, and they'd be like, "We are a constitutional republic." And I'd be like, semantics. And it's not semantics. It's really not. I didn't know. And I got more educated on it. And I'm like, wow, it's actually a vast difference. It's a real difference. Like, a constitutional republic is so much more empowering to the people. So much more. I had no idea. But it's funny, she's just calling him an authoritarian. And then when she says, "And there's just too many ways to even name one, Rosie." No, there's too many. And if I name one, I'll be doing the other million a disservice. So I'm not naming any. There's no way you're going to name him an authoritarian. And I love that Bill brought this thing up. No broadcasters. Nothing happened to any of the broadcasters. Joe Scarborough has been screaming about what he's going to do. Robert De Niro's like, he's going to take Bill Maher off the air. He's going to get rid of me. What are you guys talking about? He's a billionaire. He could do that now if he wanted to. Let's just be real. He doesn't need to be president to do that. There are people getting rid of people all over the world right now. He's never done it. He never has done anything to any of these broadcasters. Now, if they come at him, he comes back real hard, obviously. That happens, but he has done nothing to any of these broadcasters. And it's good that he brought up The View, because when he was in office, even out of office, all they would do is talk about Trump. All they would do is call him names. All they would do is make fun of him. That was it. That was what their show was about, basically. That and like random recipes. You know what I mean? That was it. So obviously nothing's going to happen to any broadcasters. He doesn't care to have anything happen to any broadcasters. Why would he? They all talk about him. And honestly, why would you get rid of, if you're Trump, why would you get rid of any broadcasters? All they did when Trump was running for president, when he became president, and even now, all they did is show what they actually are. That's exactly what happened. Tucker Carlson talks about it all the time. He goes, "It wasn't Trump that woke me up." He's like, as much as it was the reaction to Trump. When you started seeing the reaction, even now, you watch Joe Scarborough and that lady. I don't even know what that lady is. They always sit like this. They're always like this. Like some weird Orwellian type thing. Like, I agree. And their like heads are like right close like this. Like they're sharing a brain or something. It's really weird. But they showed themselves. They showed themselves in a big way. So if you're Trump, you're not getting rid of that. You're saying that the media is dishonest, and they're showing themselves as dishonest. Why would you mess up what you have going on by getting rid of them? If you get rid of them, now you look like the problem. See, and that's actually a tactic. That's a tactic. I talk about it all the time. But Saul Alinsky's work, that was one of the tactics. That if you push hard enough, the opposition will, for lack of a better term, the opposition will fight back. And the second that they do, they'll be seen as the aggressors. That's something that's been happening in any protest, BLM, pro-Palestine, any protest. The protesters will do what they do, And they could be blocking the road. They could be obstructing people. They could even be participating in little assaults here and there. But the second that the police come in and start doing something, we don't focus on the protesters and what they're doing. We focus in on the police and we go, wow, look how brutal. You know, some guy comes at somebody with a knife or a gun and a police officer ends up discharging his weapon. We don't look at the guy who had the gun. We just look at the officer shooting someone and we go, oh, wow, that was a bit too much. So if Trump ended up doing something like that throughout all the time where he could have, people would have looked at him and been like, oh, that kind of is a fascist move you just pulled. But he never did it. And he's never going to. They're the best thing that ever happened. They're free marketing. I remember Patrick Bet-David actually did a, he's a big business guy, right? So he was calculating how much marketing they did. I'm pretty sure it was for Trump. And he calculated in the hundreds of millions, like how much you would have to pay to have every news cycle be about you in some way, to always be in the news cycle in some way. How much would you have to pay all of these major companies to have that happen? And it was an astronomical number. It was crazy. So he's not going to get rid of him. But again, always fun to see Rosie. She seems very happy. She seems super happy. Bill seems super happy too. Chris seems very blissful. Always nice to see. He's making some fun content. If you haven't heard, he's the only one that's questioning things nowadays. I don't know if you guys heard that. Okay, it's not Jimmy Dore, it's not me, it's not Russell Brand, it's not Joe Rogan, it's not Tucker Carlson, it's none of those people. See how I threw my name into those names there? It's none of those people. It's him. He's the one. He's the one. So everybody tune in. Where is he at? He's at News Nation. I'll give him a shout out. I don't like the guy, but you bring Rosie O'Donnell on to talk about Trump. I'm just looking at her face. Megyn Kelly was like, you call women fat. He's like, only Rosie O'Donnell. And as soon as he said that, Rosie went, I'm never going to forget. You've been calling women fat pigs. Only Rosie O'Donnell. She was like, that's it. It's beef for the rest of our lives. You're Kendrick Lamar. I'm Drake. That's it. She's like, that's it. We're going at this forever. I actually, not that I want anything, but I would like to hear what Trump thinks about Rosie O'Donnell. Just one more time. I don't know what he'll say. But I'd love for somebody to just ask. Rosie O'Donnell talked about you again, Donald, President Trump. What do you have to say? Oh, man, I wonder what he would say. Jeez. Anyways, guys, just wanted to show you that. Let me know what you guys think about this whole thing, because I said it before in another video. If you take away J6, if you take away what happened, how would these people cope? What would their thing be that they bring up? Because that seems to be the thing, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, this little debate that they have going on here, it's always the thing that they grab onto. He stopped because Rosie O'Donnell's like, he planned it, demanded it. It's like, he didn't do any of that. None of that. He didn't plan it. He didn't demand it of people. I don't know, man. What would they be saying if he just didn't do that? But again, even that exposed some things. I'm not going to get too deep into it because it's such a rabbit hole. But when you start looking into that whole event, seems a little odd. There's some really glaring facts. I'm just going to say it. Nancy Pelosi is inside this place, this bunker. Okay? I'm sorry. I'm just going to get way too into it. It's like 2:13 p.m. to the dot. 2:13 p.m. While she's staring at a screen saying, I can't believe what's happening, Stephen A. Sund, the police chief of the Capitol, okay, he is on the phone asking for the National Guard. She's just watching. Up the chain from him, there's one other person, and then it's Nancy. The person in between him and Nancy says, I don't like we don't like the optics of the National Guard being there, but everybody can see exactly what's happening. So instead of sending the National Guard out right away, because Stephen A. Sund asked for it, they waited 6 hours to send out the National Guard. I don't know what that sounds like to you. To me, it sounds odd. But again, I'll make another video on that some other time. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It helps tremendously. I'm out.